Hello and thanks for joining me once again. This is BugPowderDust with you with another World of Tanks video. So this video is about a game that happened a couple of nights ago, which has never happened to me before. I was in a 15-0 game. Now I've been in games where we've lost sort of 13-2, 11-4, and I've been in games where we've won kind of 11-4, 12-3, etc. But never 15-0 either on the receiving or the giving end. So this happened a couple of nights ago and I was curious as to discover why it happened. What were the factors that led to it happening? Was it a simple case of our team is better than your team? Did we outplay you? Were there other factors? You know, with most things there's normally more than one thing occurring, and certainly in World in Tanks that seems to be the case. So what I want to do is just kind of delve a bit further into it. Some quite interesting facts when you boil down to it and when you look at it and take things apart slightly, all of which were contributory factors. So I thought I'd share that with you anyway, and I hope you enjoy it. What I'm going to do is just going to run through the game as normal, and then we can come back and dissect it a little bit just to find out exactly what went on. Okay, enjoy the game. Okay, so here's the game itself. The map is Port. I'm in a platoon with Morpheus 187 in a T30 and Watlanka in an E75. I am also in an E75. So because we're in a platoon of 3, we sometimes have a problem where we're the top tiers, where we represent a lot of the firepower, is that if we all go one way, it's a bit concerning to us that sometimes the other side is going to be maybe a little undergunned. And with this in the back of our mind, we hoped that the majority of the team would leave us, basically most of the tier 9s have gone this one way. In fact, all the tier 9s have gone this one way, leaving all the tier 8s and below to go off to the south. So with that in mind, that's all good. Giving Watlanka a push here because he doesn't have the latest engine, or most up-to-date engine. He also has a stock turret and the Tiger gun as he's still grinding it through. You'll notice that he's only got 18-20 hit points rather than 19-20, which is what the upgraded turret would give him. So we're pushing over here and we're wondering what we're going to come up against at this point. For those of you who haven't seen XVM, what XVM does is it gives you a breakdown using colour coding, as you can see on the people's names, of how experienced it reckons the player is, as in how many games they've played, what their efficiency is, etc. You can see people in purple, green and blue are kind of the what it thinks are the better players. They've got better efficiency, played more games, better win-loss ratio. The players in orange and red, not so much. So we bump into quite a lot of their heavy tanks here, mainly their tier 8 so far. I was going to go through this wall, take a sneaky shot, and I thought better of it given exactly how many tanks there are. So we've actually run up against most of their firepower, which is fine because we're all in tier 9s. So we get stuck in. WZ-111's in a good position there. The Carnarvon up on the bridge I think was quite key here, because what he's doing is using his rather good gun depression to fire down on the tanks, hitting them in the upper part of their turrets where the armour isn't so thick. Down in the southeast you can see there's they're moving quite rapidly, but I don't actually watch that at this point of the game. So as you can see, I'm spotted. There's a brick wall in between us. Now while I'm sat here, I'm not actually doing anything or being particularly helpful, so I'm debating now whether to put a shot on that wall and then start firing at the T29, but somebody does that for me, which is perfect. So we haven't taken any losses yet. WZ-111's doing a really good job there. And we've actually got them pretty much boxed in. We've got the Carnarvon firing down from the bridge. If you look at the minimap, the IS-2 in C7 is actually firing all the way down the map. He's doing a pretty good job. The Crusader goes down, poor thing. A light scout tank in this match is going to be hard work at in anyone's book. KB4 gets set on fire. So take 2 shots at the tracks from E75 and T29 over there. I realise that that wasn't the smartest thing to do, moving around a corner and showing my my side. So I'm backing up, wait for my spotting to wear off so they don't know where I've gone. They might think I was moving away and perhaps come out, which is actually what happens. The E75 pushes up, which is perfect. Wait for the T29 to fire, which he does. I'll move over put him down. Morpheus takes down the IS-3. E-75's left. Come around the corner. Finish him. Just the IS-8 on the right hand side now. I'm conscious not to block any of my team from firing, but just waiting for the reload. But a solid hit with the IS-8, and he gets finished off by the WZ-111. At this point, we look up from the battle after the big concentration there, realise that the enemy team only got one tank left. It's like, what the hell happened? That's a Type 58 over there in E3. The Type 58 shouldn't really have been in the match anyway. He's a tier 6. But he was dragged in because he was platooned with the Crusader, the scout tank, so poor sod basically, but I guess that's what happens when you tier up with a Crusader. So what went wrong with the game, or what went right? Let's face it, a 15-0 victory is pretty hollow. It's a whitewash. It wasn't a good game in any stretch of the imagination. So what went wrong? The first thing we really need to look at is all the players. Now I rather stupidly didn't take a screenshot of the end of game battle stats, but fortunately there is a website called vbaddict.net which collects your dossier file and also your end of battle reports automatically, so you can analyse the stats later. If you haven't tried it already, then please do try it. It's excellent utility, and donate to the person who created it because it's excellent. I'll put the link in the video description. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the stats. Now, I appreciate stats aren't everything. You know, just because somebody has a win-loss ratio of, I don't know, 43%, doesn't necessarily make them a bad player. On the other hand, stats do have something to do with it, and it's really something that we have to go on. So let's take a look at some of the stats. I mean, if we take a look at the win-loss percentage just on its own, our team is the team at the top of the picture here, and their team is a team at the bottom. You'll see that we have 10 players with 50% or more win-loss ratio, and 5 players in the 40 to 49% range. Conversely, their team, they only have 3 players with 50% or more win-loss ratio, and 12 players in the 40 to 49 range. You'll also see that the amount of games played, we've got quite a few players who've played over 10k games, and the rest of the players are kind of between 2 and 10, whereas the majority of their players have actually played under 10k, and the majority, I would say, of those are under 5k. So it seems that in terms of experience, games played and win-loss ratio, the advantage would seem to be to our team. Apart from the obvious fact that I pointed out about the Type 58 Tier 6 vehicle should never have been in a Tier 9 game. The reason it was in there was because it was platooned with the Crusader. As a Crusader is a scout tank, it was legitimately in the game. In terms of the actual map, really not a very good map for a scout tank. There's not much opportunity for either passive bush scouting or zipping about in the open, you know, dodging in and out of those tanks. It's really quite a poor map for that. Nevertheless, you can see it spotted 3 tanks, did a little bit of damage, so it did as well as could be expected. However, 5 other tanks on their team did when you think that one of those tanks is their Tier 9 E75, you start to get a clearer picture of the things that are starting to go wrong here. In terms of XP gained over on the far right hand side, only 4 of their team got over 100 XP, so clearly something was really quite badly wrong here. So I looked a bit more closely. As it turns out, 4 of their tanks had stock turrets, and they were the KV-4, the IS-3, the IS-8 and one of the E75s. Now certainly with a stock turret you can't fit the best guns with the E75, and I think also for the KV-4 you also have less hit points, generally about 100 hit points less, and this wouldn't have done them any favours when they came up against tanks who were more than capable of punching through the much weaker armour of the stock turrets. When you look at the most experienced person on their side, which was El Padre with 17k games in his KV-5, it's no real surprise then that he was the one who got the most XP, the most credits by some distance for his team, and the most damage dealt. Clearly he'd been using his KV-5 a lot. As it turns out, he's played into the 20,000 games in the KV-5, so he obviously knew how to use it, and and he used it to good effect. Looking at our team, however, we have a KV3 who does nothing for the whole game, absolutely zip. He just moves up and then sits there. IS3 of ours didn't do a great deal. He got perhaps one shot on target. By the looks of it, he did a kill with it. But I think it was also luck that we had just a group of players who all were fairly aggressive in their playstyle. Let's just take a look at a video I made of the minimap, and you can see the flow of the battle. Okay, here we go. First of all, I had no idea that you could actually expand the minimap up to this size. This is awesome. Full-size minimap, brilliant. Okay, so as you can see, we spread out. All us tier 9s go north, as well as an IS-2. Artillery stays top right corner. And we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tier 8s, and the 2 mediums go pushing south. Now, the 2 mediums act perfectly. They are spreading out, they're spotting, they're going ahead of the heavies. You know, falling back. The Pershing is pausing on that brick wall that is there. Type 59 is going under the bridge on a spot up. IS-2 takes position up on the bridge itself, and he's well placed to put shots from where he is over to the west of the map. So the heavy tanks spread out a bit. One of the IS pushes over. He's got speed on his side. They realise that they haven't seen any tanks yet, so they're going to push up. I'm going to concentrate on the southeast of the map for now, because we've seen the battle in the top left-hand corner from my point of view earlier. I did try and get replays from some of the team that were down in the south, but no one has responded yet. Maybe they don't understand English, or maybe they're just not interested. But yes, we can see what happens here. So the KV5, as I mentioned earlier, is right there. IS-3. Our team are hanging back a bit to find exactly how many tanks are there, but if you're any good at maths, you can see that, look, we've got 6 or 7 tanks in the north, minus 2 artillery. That leaves, well, maybe 6 tanks here at the most. So our guys moving in very aggressively. Don't normally see that sort of aggression on this map. So we can see the 2 IS-3s, both of which have stock turrets, remember, and the KV-5. You'll see our KV-3 there in, is it D8? Yeah, D8, just sat there doing nothing, and he remains there for the rest of the game, being completely useless. But our guys are very aggressive, moving in now. KV-5 is playing peekaboo, cat and mouse around that building. One of the IS-3s is backing off completely. Now you'll notice that the enemy's T-32 is missing. He should be getting stuck in and helping his teammates here. He does make an appearance right at the end. So our team already have a good advantage here. The IS-2 is moving up now, up to the middle of the bridge, puts him a bit higher, where he can now fire really down nicely down onto the T-29 and the E-75 on the left hand side. So you've got, they're now surrounding the KV-5, and they'll make short work of that. He's going to go down very quickly. This then leaves the IS-3, which has retreated earlier. So KV-5's gone down. This frees up now all the 2, 3 heavies and the 2 mediums now to wipe out the remaining IS-3, which won't take very long at all with that amount of firepower. And the Type 59 in the meantime is going to go artillery hunting along with the IS. So they're moving up very quickly along the bottom of the map, leaving the others to deal with the IS-3 because there's more than enough firepower there. So the artillery spotted, bottom left hand corner, IS-3 dies, and here's the T-32. T-32 has been spotted by the IS, and T-32 decides to rush in. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe he was AFK, who knows, but he doesn't do any damage as the game goes on. But he's been spotted, and they rush in like a pack of hyenas, IS-3 going behind him. And the T-32 is a nice heavy tank. It's got extremely good turret armour, but he gets vaporised, leaving the poor Type 58 in the middle of the map, not doing a great deal, like a rabbit in the headlights really. So I've mentioned a few of the key items that I feel were responsible for the 15-0 victory, but one of the things that really struck me was how important the bridges were. You can see that the IS-2 on the bridge to the east commanded a very good position and was flinging a lot of rounds to the west, attacking the vehicles that we were all fighting in the northwest. He did 1700 damage. That's nothing to sniff at, considering that the IS-2's guns are not the most accurate. Then we have the Carnarvon, as indicated, firing down on the vehicles up there in the northwest again. Now, if I was on the enemy team, what I would have been doing as their artillery is raining down shells on the IS-2 and the Carnarvon, because A, they would have been quite easy to hit being up exposed on the bridges like that, and B, it would have been doing our team a huge favour, and they're both quite decent targets to shoot at, but that didn't happen. The artillery pieces, one barely hit, I think even one vehicle. The GW Panther, that was, did 418 damage, the SU-8 did 767 damage, so I suspect they got about 5 hits between them. So, to summarise, neither of our teams were totally perfect. On our team, our KB3 did nothing at all, and one of our artillery pieces I think only fired once, so our team wasn't perfect. However, on the opposing team, their T-32 only shows up at the end, does really nothing apart from gets vaporised. The Type 58 medium should never have been in the game to start off with. 3 of their tanks did nothing whatsoever, and their arty was, I think, firing at the wrong targets. Then to underline all that, as you can see from the statistics, our players appeared to be more experienced. Now, you know, bad players can play well on matches, and good players can play badly on matches. God knows, I consider myself to be slightly above average, but I certainly have games where I play abysmally for no good reason other than I just have a brain fart, or I'm not concentrating. But I think overall the fact that the more experienced players, and by that I mean they played more games, were all concentrating on one team, and I think also which helped is our T9s met their T9s head on, and we kept them tied up, while the bulk of our force went round clockwise down to the southeast and quickly overwhelmed the 3 tanks that were down there. It should have been 4 had the T-32 been up and with them, but as it was just 3. And they got overwhelmed very quickly due to our team working very well indeed and being very aggressive. So all in all, very interesting game. Yeah, it was a whitewash, but looking at the reasons for a game like that, I thought was absolutely fascinating. It's a shame I couldn't get some replays from some of the other players, indeed players on the other team as well, but it's just the way it is. A lot of people don't actually record replays. This does bring up an interesting point about the matchmaker and whether the matchmaker should take your win-loss ratio or your efficiency rate into account when serving up a game. At the moment it doesn't, it just uses vehicle weightings, and I don't even think it actually takes modules into account either. So if you have an equal weight of tanks, but say all the tanks on one team have the upgraded guns and turrets, etc., does it take that into account? I don't think it does. I think we could talk all day about whether the matchmaker is good or not. Personally, I think it should take a few more factors into account. You don't get games like this every day, because let's face it, the distribution of more experienced players would have been more even normally, which is why you get games that tend to be less one-sided. You do get the odd games, as I said at the start of this video, where they are very heavily weighted to one team or the other, but generally you know, there is a fair smattering of players on both teams. So Wargaming are probably looking at that and thinking, you know, it's all good. But if you look at the forums, you don't have to search very far to see people complaining or whining about the matchmaking. I think Wargaming could do a little bit more to make the matchmaking more even and balanced, but I think they've said that they're never going to do that. They're never going to base it on individual player skill, which is, I can kind of understand why they want to do that, but other games do base matchmaking on player skill and doesn't seem to do them any harm, so maybe Wargaming will reconsider. Personally, I don't have an axe to grind one way or the other. I'm just happy to sort of play the game and see where we go with it. We all have our off nights after all. God knows I've had a couple in the last couple of days. Anyway, so I hope you found that useful, and if you spotted anything that I haven't about the game, then please feel free to leave a comment. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed it. Stay safe out there, and I'll speak to you next time.